Hi, this is Leanne from Little Bottoms, and we're making a diaper today. We need a pattern. I have the Rocket Bottoms twist pattern, watercolor, glue, and I have a marking pen. I like to use washable glue. And we need to check the stretch of our fabric, because one side is stretchy, one is not. The stretchy side goes with the wings of the diaper. So we place the pattern onto our PUL or pole, and use the watercolor to cut around the outside. If you find the fabric is slippery and the pattern's moving, paperweights or a rock or anything heavy can help you out. So now I'm taking a little piece of the PUL and I'm making the back strap for my pocket. It needs to be a little wider than the elastic. So measure how far it is, and I like it to be about 3 to 4 inches wide. And now I'm going to mark my snaps. I punched holes in the pattern where the snaps are going to go, and I mark them with my pen. And I flip the pattern over and I do the other side. And now I have my lining fabric. It's athletic wicking jersey, but you can use microfleece, or there's a limitless number of options. And I cut around it just like I did with the PUL. And again, if you need anything to hold it down, use paperweights. Make sure there's no wrinkles or no folding of the fabric, because that will be the wrong size for pattern. So you take the top, take about 1.5 to 2 inches off the top for the front pocket, and then for the back you mark where the elastic is, and you just do an angled cut that is about 1.5 to 2 inches deep in the middle. And you also need another belly flap piece. You need a straight piece, so cut it straight first, and then you place your pattern piece on top. You find out where your elastic is going to go, and that's where you start. That's where the cut line is, where the elastic is going to be. So now we measure your snaps, how far apart they are, so that we can get the reinforcement. If you only have one layer of PUL, the chances of the snaps going through are quite high, and we don't want to make a diaper that has leaky snaps, leaky holes that we can't put on a baby. So just glue the snap reinforcement on, and now we just use our awl and you punch holes in the snap markings. I find if you don't use the glue, the reinforcement strip will move around. So I just like the washable glue, so I know when I wash it, it comes completely out and it won't be an issue later on. So I like to do the male snap on the top and the female snap on the bottom when I'm doing it for personal use, so that you can use all your snaps, because lots of times you buy the kits and they have equal number of male and female snaps. But you can choose to do the left side male and the left side female. You can do whatever you want to do. For my diapers for sale, I do all female snaps on the front, but I buy them in bulk, and I buy a lot more female snaps, so I can do that without any issues. And sometimes it's helpful to grab a pile of snaps beside you so you don't have to reach as far. Just those little seconds really save you a lot in the end. And this is the size large Rocket Bottoms twist pattern. I'm not sure if she's changed the pattern recently, but this one is about 3 years old. So now we'll just cut away the excess reinforcement strip. It's not necessary, but I find when you're sewing, especially when you top stitch, it bunches and it doesn't look as nice. So I like to cut it away. So now we're going to serge the edges that are going to be exposed and raw on our lining fabric. So the piece that we cut off the front, because we cut 1.5 inches to 2 inches off the front, the belly panel, and then also along the back, where we did the scoop cut, we're going to need to do serge across that. And it's not to prevent fraying or anything, because this is a knit fabric, but it is just to make it look nicer. And you also do the tummy piece where the elastic line was. That's where we're going to serge. So now we take our piece with the right side up, so the pretty side up, and we're going to place down the belly panel, and then the main piece on top of that. And make sure your serger tails are facing outwards. Otherwise, when we turn it around, the serger tails will be on the right side, and it won't look very nice. And we also put the elastic piece on the back, and I like to use very thin, very sharp pins. Anything thick or dull is going to make a big hole in the pole, and we want to do as little damage to it as possible. Which is why when we're sewing it, we need to use a knit or ballpoint needle. Otherwise, it can cause holes and create leaking and wicking. So we're going to start sewing with a straight stitch. I use a 2 stitch length, and again, ballpoint needle. It's very, very important. And I use a 3/8 seam allowance, and I remove the pins as I'm sewing. I don't like to sew over them, although sometimes I do. It's just better for your machine not to. When you're going around the wings, make sure both layers are in line and they're not bunching or twisting. And especially over the back, when you're switching to the area that just has the pole, make sure your pocket is pulled away, because if it's bunched up close to it, it makes the pocket really small, and you want it big enough to get your hand in. You want to hold and gently guide your fabric around. And do a little back stitch at the end so it locks your stitches. And now I'd like to trim all of my serger tails. And now we are going to mark the elastics. So use your marking pen and mark a little line or dart. And for the back elastic, since I'm marking on the waterproof side of the pole, it tends to rub off very easily. So I just make a line that goes all the way down to the athletic wicking jersey, and then I know even if it rubs off, I have a general idea where the elastic is going to be. I like to curve the corners because I think it looks nice, but it's not necessary. So now we're going to sew on the elastic. We need a 3-step zigzag stitch on the widest setting, and we are going to start about 1 inch after the elastic on the end. So then we back stitch and go back and forth quite a few times, and then we find your mark, and we're going to pull your elastic as far as it will go, and then I like to give it 1 extra inch and then place that where your elastic mark is and hold it tight, and then I stitch all the way down the elastic, staying in the seam allowance. You don't want to go past the seam allowance. And then you want to backstitch a few times and back and forth, and then cut it with about 1/2 inch to 1 inch left of the elastic. You want to make sure not to cut right where you're stitching. You want to give it at least 1/2 inch. And then we do the other side, and just do the exact same thing again. And then the back, pull it, and then you want to make sure to give that extra inch. And I use knit elastic. This is 3/8 of an inch knit elastic. And now we clip the corners. We want to take away all the extra bulk, so when we turn it inside out in top stitch, it's nice and smooth and it gives a nice appearance. And it's good to use sharp scissors. They're slightly dull, it takes a really long time, and it's not very fun. And just little notches. They don't have to be that pretty, just make sure to not cut your seam. So turn your diaper inside out, and we are going to make sure that we push all the edges out. So on the back elastic, I put it in the proper position with the seam in the middle, and I just do a little pin to keep in the right spot, and then I feel around and I move everything into a nice position, and I put a pin on where the elastic starts on both sides of the back pocket opening. And I do the same for where the elastics start on the belly panel as well. And I also do a couple just on the front, make sure everything stays in the right spot. So this I'm using a straight stitch on a 2 length stitch length, and you want to backstitch a little bit when you start. When you get to the elastic, you're going to want to, I like to taper it out. Some people like to do just a straight line out and then go up to the elastic, but I like to taper it out. And I like to go about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch wider than what the elastic is. And this is very important. You want to make sure that it's even. You don't want the lining coming up onto, so when you need it to be even. So move your fabric, feel it around, pull it. If you find the bottom side is twisting up, just grab it and give it a tug until it's even, and then continue sewing. And for the tabs, just feel them and pull it all the way out. And for the back elastic, it's really important for the pocket to remain open. So you need just check it to make sure the pocket is pulled away. You can't really see, but my thumb is holding the inside pocket out of the way. And when you stop, make sure the needle is down so you don't lose your place or slide and skip around. And then when you do the tabs, just take your time, because sometimes around the corners it's a little tricky. Sometimes you have to pull it and push it just a little bit to manipulate it through. Depends on the size of seam allowance. The thinner the seam allowance, I find the harder it is to go around the tabs. So sometimes you can do 3/8 of the seam allowance for the top stitching, and that's completely fine. You do whatever you're comfortable with. And just keep, as you're going, stretch the elastic and manipulate the fabric around so that on the side it is even. And when you get to the snap panel in the belly, sometimes it's a little narrower, so you can change where your needle is by moving it more to the left, more to the right, and depending on the pattern you're using, it can be very helpful. Make sure to backstitch. And now we are going to put the wing snaps on. So we're going to mark, we're going to take the pattern, we're going to place it on top, and we're going to mark with our marking pen where I want my snaps. I'm going to do 3. So I have the top and bottom snap, and then also a wing snap to prevent droop. And I'm just going to place them together, and I'm going to poke a hole with my awl so I can easily get my snaps in. And once the hole's poked, you don't even see the marking pen anymore, so that's why I only marked the one side. So because I have the male on the top, the female on the bottom, I'm going to do the male on the bottom of the tab and the female on the top of the tab. And it's a good habit to just check it to make sure that you did the right one, because you don't want to do the opposite of what you're meaning to do. So this is the finished diaper. It actually looks like a real diaper. And for the pocket, we put the pockets in the front and the back so that it's easy to put the insert in. You can picture my hand is the insert. And one feature about having a front opening in the front and the back is that when you're washing, it comes out in the wash, which is my favorite thing. I hate digging out inserts, and this is a huge time saver for me. So there is your finished diaper. Have a great day. Thank you very much for